can have a little bit longer than half past. We've probably only got 20 minutes left. So we're going to take the last, it's going to be like the second to last round. Yeah.
Wes, you really whipped me up into a corner with that last response. As the LGBT rep for Euston College, one of the most multicultural colleges at Durham, I've got to preface this by saying, unlike the NUS, I don't pretend to speak for all LGBT students. Obviously, I'm only one, but I feel utterly patronised by the position that your LGBT officer has taken. Obviously, we're a very diverse community. There have been conversations going on at college level, at council level, and within the LGBT community about whether we do support this. I've asked around, and quite a lot of people who I know are LGBT didn't support me. I know you've already addressed this issue, but I just wanted to add my voice to it. The second part of it is there was a bottom-up process going on at the college level, at council level, and it seems to me that it's been interrupted by a thoroughly autocratic, top-down process from the NUS. How would you respond to the fact that actually fascism and this autocratic sort of mechanism of dealing with things is exactly what we're trying to fight against in this?
We're talking about democracy, we talked about the US giving legitimacy to the BNP. Like it or not, the legitimacy happened when these people were elected to positions of civic responsibility. How can you have a no-platform policy when people are elected members of the government?
You've said, and I think you're right, that what gets said in this debating chamber doesn't get relayed to the BNP core voter. But what does it do? Well, I've walked through those doors on a Friday night, and I've walked in thinking that something's probably wrong, but not really knowing whether I want to do anything about it, and not really knowing why it's so bad. I've come in here, and I've been bluntly shit scared. I've thought, wow, this is a really big issue. Next time I go to the voting station, that's going to be my main priority. Every day in my life, I'm going to try and change and stop that, because it's a massive, massive issue. People are lazy. Students are lazy. They know the BNP are bad, but they can't see directly how it affects their lives today or tomorrow. Therefore, like you do as your persuasive speaker, you've got to show them. That's what debate does. I've stood with you on that platform and spoken on a Friday night to try and make people see that on other issues. This is a particularly important issue. Let people hear the arguments and let people be in passion and let people stop the BNP that way.
I'll take them in order. So that last point was powerful, and I'll respond to that. The first point about not pretending to speak on behalf of all students. One thing that I will never do and have never done actually, whether it was when I was president of my college union or my student union or NUS, is pretend to speak for all students on all things all the time. I'm not sure there is probably a single issue or a single thing where I could put my hand on my heart and say that the 7 million students in colleges and universities that we are here to represent would sign up to a particular policy, and not least because of the way the policy making works. Where you'll see it locally, where you have the JCR will debate it, DSU will debate it. Sometimes some JCR will agree with the DSU position. Sometimes some people will oppose it. There will always be a divergence of views. What Student Unions and NUS is here to do is, there's some things we do that are directly about supporting and servicing individuals, but there are other things which is about defending students' interests and defending our collective interests. And what we do is we have a debate and we have a democratic discussion to decide how best we, as students coming together, believe that our interests can be best served. And that means, I dare say, if I flick through the NUS policy books, there are probably some policies that I don't agree with, but you'll never know because I'll stand up on platforms like this and will always defend them as best I can, or even better, find an NUS officer who really does believe it and shove them up instead. But I take the central point you made, which is about the top-down stuff and about the importance of NUS not being top-down or wading in a local setting where the student union has expressly said, look, hands off, we don't want you here. And I do think of all the things that have been raised this evening in terms of things that have to happen going forward, I think we do need something that is very clear and set down, almost like part of the membership deal, membership protocol, that NUS doesn't just kind of get the steamroller out and wade in. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't come and make arguments about things. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't come along and say, look, nationally, students are confident voted for no platform policy, and here's why you should think about implementing it in Durham. It's a different thing to say, here's something that's been decided nationally, we're going to come and enforce it on you. And I take that point. I think that's something I've heard very loud and clear this evening and elsewhere as well. Your point about the legitimacy of the BNP afforded by, having already been afforded by the fact that people up and down the country have voted for them as MEPs and councillors, I think is one of the things that was most difficult about the European election results, seeing not just one but two MEPs and the BNP leader given those positions, because I do think it is a game changer. I do think it changes where they get invited to speak and where they appear. I will always turn up and protest against what they have to say, but I have a little bit more sympathy than I would have done perhaps pre-European elections with the BBC than before. Or having said that publicly now, I'm probably going to get shot when I get back by some people. But there is a problem with that. I don't necessarily think that this ties into no platform policy or is a game changer in that sense, because again, it's about, okay, we've got a platform, we've got a choice. Do we really have to? Do we really want to invite these people? And that's something that sort of stick to. And the final point about apathy, I'm not sure I've ever heard that particular argument for no platform policy before. And all I'd say to that is that I really do hope that as a result of all of this and the level of interest around this debate and what the BNP stand for and the level of tensions that arise, that in addition to turning up at a forum like this, or indeed turning up to hear the BNP speak, that people, particularly in the run-up to the general election, will also turn up to pick up a bag of leaflets and actually go door to door in communities where people are thinking to turn to BNP, whether that's somewhere near where you live at home, where people are thinking of voting for the BNP, or in place in County Durham, where the BNP are gaining a real foothold. Because I think, I do believe, I've talked about no platform policy as a tool in defeating the BNP, which I think it is. It's by no means the only tool, or indeed the most effective tool. I think the key thing is to actually go out there and talk to people in places where people are turned to BNP, and there's also a responsibility, most of all, on the political establishment and the political parties to ensure that some of the root causes of the growth of the BNP, which isn't necessarily racism or bigotry, but is poverty and inequality, are effectively addressed, particularly in the current economic climate we find ourselves in.
Right, okay, as I said, I'm really sorry, this is going to be the last round. Obviously, a lot of people haven't had an opportunity to ask a question. I do apologise for the time limit. But if you do have questions which haven't been answered, do feel free to email me and I'll pass them on to Wes, or they can email you directly, can't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool. So we do, yeah, you back.